Morning all. All good morning. It's the devil mug today. You can just about see the pattern on it. I've had this mug for about 10 years. I had a t-shirt that came with it, and that's about 10 years old as well. But t-shirt got binned the other day. Anyway, so what did I want to talk about this morning? Well, I was out in the car the other day and I'm following a bus, and on the back of this bus is an advert. It's for vitamins, special vitamins for kids. Is this the world we're living in? That a kid's diet needs to be supplemented by vitamins? There's also an advert doing the rounds on the television about vitamins for dogs. I mean, to me that's an admission that the food is shit. If you've got to supplement your... If you've got to supplement what you're taking in with vitamins, that's not good. But that's the whole thing in it. I mean, we're into... Move a chair forward a bit. January, or they're calling it vegan-airy, because they're trying to persuade and push and say to people, just try going... excuse me. Vegan and plant-based for a month. It's a thing. It used to be dry January at one time, and now it's become this sort of vegan thing. I don't want that to. Just blame the light, that's all. Ooh. This thing still hasn't gone, and I've just lit the fire to keep it warm in here. It's getting better, but it's not going. So yeah, when I was a kid growing up watching Tomorrow's World and stuff like that, I didn't think part of what Tomorrow's World would be, in the world we lived in the future, would be having to give your children and your pets supplemental vitamins to keep them healthy. That's not the future of flying cars and everything I envisaged. So yeah, that's one thing. But the other thing, moan over, the other thing I wanted to talk about is one of the podcasts I follow has dropped new episodes. I'm going to give it a listen in a minute. I tried to listen to it yesterday when I was cooking tea. But I really think it deserves full attention, so I'm going to do it in a minute when I'm up. Where's my phone? Oh, my phone alarm will go off in a minute. Show me where my phone is. It's almost 7:30. That's on there. So yeah, it's called Penny Royal, and it's one of those, is it true, is it not, about weird events and excuse me, I'm trying to force down a cough. Weird events in Kentucky, the Kentucky Goblins and all sorts of weird stuff, because I may have spoken about this before, but you know, that area of America was like the Kentucky Triangle, and at one side you've got the Mothman, at one side you've got the Hopkinsville Goblins, and at the other corner is I think it's Brown Mountain, and a famous UFO spot, and underneath Kentucky is riddled with caves and caverns. And I think even the name Kentucky in Native American means dark ground or bloody ground or something like that. But I do like this podcast. Like I say, it's called Penny Royal, and even if it's just fiction and stories, they're really well crafted little tales. You know, never mind creepypasta and Slender Man and all that, which shoot, I didn't get into. never mind all of that. These are really well crafted micro stories. So yeah, pennyroyal and vitamins for kids. Weird. We also watched that thing on the telly all over the past few nights. The Trial of Louise Woodward. I watched it because, it was something that happened quite close to home for me. Elton was just down the road from where I was living at the time. And Penn watched it because it's a murder thing. Scary when you look back on it. 25 years ago, quarter of a century ago, one of the doctors who gave evidence for the prosecution has now turned around and said, no, I wouldn't have said that. He's changed his opinion on shaken baby syndrome in the past quarter century. A baby died, and you can't take that away from it. And you see, what I couldn't understand watching this documentary that they made, they were going on about shaken baby syndrome, which to my way of thinking is like a boxer punch drunk. Your brain is around in your skull when your body's moving. It's injury that boxers and that get. And they're saying that's what's killed him. And in the same breath, they're also saying that the baby had a fractured skull. And that's what killed him. And it was the bleed from the fracture, a bleed on the brain. It was 7:30, my alarm's just gone off. It can't be both. It has to be one or the other. And they were saying with a fractured skull, there was no bruising. It was an old injury, an old break that bled. And they were saying with shaken baby, but they're not even sure, when it's opinions divided, whether it's a thing or not. There was no bruising where she would have held him and all the rest of it. And this is where it gets a bit thingy as well. The medical doctors. Some are for the prosecution, some are for the defence. Some of them saying it's a thing, some of it's not. They're scientists. And we get this thing now, trust for science, trust for science, trust for science. But science moves and changes, and it's subject to peer review and all the rest of it. It's difficult to trust for science when stuff like that happens. It's difficult to trust the science when scientists used to say cigarettes are good for you. It's difficult to trust the science when certain tin pot dictatorships or whatever have had scientists in their pockets saying this is good for you, this is what we should be doing. And it's difficult to trust the science when science is funded and it's very much sort of a... what's the word I am looking for? It's all established, and you can, this is why we aren't having houses made out of living plants, or we're looking into alternative propulsion or alternative, it's always science runs down the route of taking existing things and making them better, more profitable for the owners of these things. So you can't do anything really alternative and weird with science because you won't get the funding. But if you're going to make a new type of aspirin or something like that, then the money comes rolling in. So trust the science. I'd like to say I wish I could, but when stuff like this happens, you can't really, can you? So trust the science. Well, what science is physics science? The greatest physicist that may have ever lived was Sir Isaac Newton. Also an occultist. Wrote 6 times more on the occult than he did on physics. Trust the occult. I don't know. I'm not a denier. I'm not anti-vax. I'm not. This family. But I'm just saying that there is. It's all a bit thingy. But yeah, with the Louise Woodward thing, it was very much a trial by media, and it was an enormous sort of circus, and oh God, doesn't paint the Americans and their legal system in a particularly good light. And it doesn't paint anybody, you know. Did she do it? I don't think she did. I really do not think she did. I mean, to me, the evidence is there was no bruising. There was there was a possibility it was an old injury, and too much of this. I think it was probably, a very unfortunate accident. The baby had fallen over and banged his head and fractured his skull at some time in the past. Under whose care? It could be one of three people. It could have been the nanny, or it could have been the mother, or it could have been the father. Under whose care it could have been. And if there's an element of doubt, you can't put someone in prison for the whole of the rest of their life, or for 20 odd years, if there's an element of doubt. So it should have been treated as an accident, but it wasn't, and they went to town. And I do wonder why it's all come out now. Is it because it's the quarter century? Or is it because we've got this thing going on at the moment? Where the wife of a US serviceman knocked a lad off a bicycle or moped, claimed diplomatic immunity and scooted off to America. And he's supposed to be going on trial by video link and all that. And then you've got the whole Prince Andrew thing as well, where the FBI wants to talk to him and investigate him, and it was all of that. So, not so much the programme, which I do find fascinating, but why it's come out now. Anyway, peace you all, out.